You're listening to the Industry Alchemist podcast. The definition of alchemy is a seemingly magical process of transformation or creation. This podcast exists to hear the stories of entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders doing just that in their industry. We hear about the journey of the brave souls carving a new path, moving their industry and our lives forward in a seemingly magical way. This episode is brought to you by OfficeChief.com. Office Chief exists to make moving your office easy and painless. Moving an office can be a big hassle. On top of running your company, you're thrown into having to figure out what to do. Hire space planners, furniture companies, movers, IT consultants, the list goes on. It only takes 2 minutes to create a profile, and Office Chief gives you a step-by-step action plan and connects you with the top vendors in your market. Moving your office? Log on to OfficeChief.com and make it easy. I'm your host, Matt Brower, co-founder and managing broker of Column Commercial Partners, helping companies save money on their real estate. I'm also founder and CEO of OfficeChief.com, an online resource for businesses moving their office or updating their space.
Hey guys, welcome to the Industry Alchemist podcast. I'm your host, Matt Brower. This episode's guest is an entrepreneur in an industry that's top of mind for all business owners right now, as we all figure out how the future of our office space will look moving forward. As a Colorado native, Brian Watson got his degree in marketing and entrepreneurship from Colorado Mesa University. He's been an entrepreneur since the beginning of his career, and after he discovered that there's a large entrepreneurial community in Grand Junction, which is where he lived at the time, and the surrounding communities, he opened his first co-working space so people could come together and collaborate. This catapulted him into starting his current company, Proximity, 4.5 years ago. Proximity is a workplace management platform that connects people and places. As all business owners are trying to figure out how best to keep their team connected while working remotely, I am excited to hear how Proximity is helping create this solution. So thanks for being here, Brian.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to jump in by asking, I know you're meeting with tons of business owners, from small businesses all the way up to Fortune 500 companies. You're having conversations with a lot of people right now. And we'll dig in a little deeper in terms of what you're building within Proximity. But I want to hear, what's the common conversation?
Yeah.
What's the common theme of how people are questioning this, trying to figure this out? Can you kind of paint that for us?
Yeah. So I think the common theme is there's a lot of complexity, right? And all of us, we talk about COVID and how that has impacted everyone's world. And I think the first thing that we found is that nothing is new, and everything that was set in motion maybe a year ago has really just accelerated, right? And so when we think about what COVID did to kind of the business landscape or the work environment, it accelerated everything about 5 to 10 years in about 6 months, it feels like. And so I think what that means is there's a lot of folks looking up and saying, what are we going to do moving forward? And, you have a lot of companies right now that are stating that they're going to go remote first, or they're going to, situate their business and their employees in some sort of hybrid model or whatever. And so we're having a lot of conversations with folks that are trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's really what we are doing. So we, as you mentioned, have spent the last 3 to 4 years building out a software management platform for co-working spaces to start off with, which, if you think about it, is really kind of the tip of the spear when it comes to utilizing buildings and having a lot of people coming and going and keeping everything organized. That's what our technology does. And so now that we're in a point where all of these organizations are looking up and saying, how are we going to go back to the office? Not only are we adding lots and lots of co-working spaces to the network, but we're talking with a lot of businesses trying to figure out how to bring their employees back to the office or, organize them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So your technology started as a support system or, efficiency system for co-working spaces, but it sounds like now, in light of all that's happened in the last 12 plus months, you're actually going to be offering a solution to companies that are going to keep their office space and just, because I think the conversation right now, I've heard a lot of, companies are going to probably downsize their space and give employees the option to come in. So the footprint's going to be a lot smaller, but then that presents management issues in how do we manage who's coming in, when, who's allowed, is there a reservation system? So those are some of the things that Proximity is going to be doing.
Yeah, so that's
Cool.
that's a great example. So again, just kind of our origin story. We started a co-working space. We wanted to automate it as much as possible because myself and we've got several business partners in this company, and so we weren't doing co-working full time, and so we needed to automate it. When we automated our co-working space, we had a lot of other co-working spaces kind of pop up and say, hey, what system are you using? And that's how we started growing our software company, is selling the software that we built for ourselves. Now, fast forward, we've got 400 plus locations in the United States. We've got 100,000 people on the platform. And now we're looking up again, and we've got companies, like you said, trying to figure out how do we manage our people. So to give you a couple examples of some of the things that we're hearing, if let's say you have a headquarters in Denver, for example, and maybe you have 200 employees that work there, right? And so one of the challenges that a lot of those managers are trying to figure out is, we don't want our whole staff to get wiped out from COVID or whatever. So
Right.
Some of the options is they're just letting everyone work from home. Some of the options is, maybe they're setting up cohorts of employees. So maybe they've got like a Monday, Tuesday cohort and a Wednesday, Thursday cohort and a Friday, Saturday cohort or whatever, so that not all their employees are mixing together.
Right, yeah.
We can use our technology and give access to the buildings on certain days for those people. Or maybe you've got half of the building that you want half of your team to work out of, and half of the building you want the other half of your team to work out of, so everyone's not mixing together. We can give a lot of granularity on who can access what portion of your building, who can't access what portion of your building, and stuff like that. So we can help with a lot of that, as well as show data and give reporting on who's actually coming into your building on what day. So if anyone gets sick, who to reach out to talk with. And stuff
wow,
like.
yeah.
So we can help with a lot of different things, and I think again, all of the companies, all of the clients that we're working with are working with their teams and trying to figure out how do we want to move forward as an organization. And kind of the name of the game for us is flexibility and giving your employees choice. And so what we want to do is sit down with your organization, figure out what are you trying to accomplish, and then how do we set up our technology to allow you to accomplish that. So there's several more conversations that we're having. There's several more things that we're kind of seeing with clients. And then we just sit down and work with them and figure out how to set up the system to achieve their goals.
Wow. And you were showing me on your phone, this is all built on the back of an app. So there's no need for your employees to hold additional keys or card keys or anything. It's all via their cell phone.
Yep, it's all via their cell phone. They can just walk in. One of the nice things we were talking about is, as the manager or the building owner, you can open any door in your building from anywhere on Earth, right? So I'm in Denver with you. If my wife and I live up in Telluride, if someone needs into our building, I can just open the door for them.
On your cell phone.
On my cell phone. Whereas if you have employees or members of your building or whatever, you can set it to be geo-fenced, so they have to be within 100 feet of the building for the keys to work on their app and stuff like that. So It just keeps everything really nice and organized. Another thing that we've got companies working with us on is, because we have a large network, so in Colorado alone, we've got 60 co-working spaces throughout the whole state, not just in Boulder and Denver and Fort Collins and Colorado Springs, but also throughout, all the mountain towns. We've got co-working spaces in all the mountain towns and a lot of small rural communities as well. So if your employees want to go skiing on the weekend and they want to stay a couple days and need a place to be able to work out of, or maybe they've got a client in Aspen or something like that, hypothetically, that they need to meet while they're up there.
Right.
We have a whole network of co-working spaces that they can just check in and work out of. And then as the admin, you get reporting on where your people are working out of and all that stuff too.
So if I want to clarify that. So let's say my company is a member of WeWork, for instance.
Yep.
Common name everyone
Yep.
knows.
That's great.
And somebody's up in the mountains and there's a different brand of co-working space, but both are on the Proximity platform because that other co-working space in the mountains is part of Proximity. That employee that's part of WeWork would have access to that as well? Or
Yep.
how does it?
We can set it up that way. So the advantage when we started, our goal has been to connect the world's mobile workforce. And, I can give a big history of why we, part of the reason that has been so important to us is we're Western Slope people, and so I grew up in Grand Junction. One of the big conversations that we had when we first started all of this work was, I grew up, I've always loved entrepreneurship. I helped some friends start different companies. I left Grand Junction, I came back, and as you were mentioning, a few of us were trying to figure out if anyone else was interested in entrepreneurship and like new tech entrepreneurship in the ways that we were, And for a long time, when I moved back, the whole narrative was, if you want to be successful, you need to leave Grand Junction. Like that was the like I had professors tell me that, like you need to get out of here.
Yeah.
And professors that were friends, and so one of the things that's really important is we want to be able to connect people together, right? We believe when entrepreneurs work together and support each other, good things happen, right? And so part of the reason that we started this whole organization, that our mission is to connect the world's mobile workforce, is because we have seen first and foremost the benefit of being tied to a network, being able to travel, being able to get connected to folks like you.
Right.
We got to meet yesterday and we're both entrepreneurs. We have a lot in common, and we're able to just say, oh, you need to connect to these people or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
So there's a lot of advantages to tying all these locations together and the members of these networks together. And so, if you are a part of WeWork or any of the co-working spaces or any of the facilities on the Proximity network, we can connect you to any of the other ones.
That's
that are in the
incredible.
network, yeah.
Wow. And when did you start the reach out to actual corporations that are going to keep their own office, not be a part of a co-working? When did all that kind of start? Is that something that you guys had an idea of and you reached out to get that conversation started and show them the way, or did they start reaching out to you?
I think it's a little of both, right? I think what we've had is, again, a product that was focused mostly on co-working spaces, but the challenge is not any different, whether you're a co-working space or the entrepreneur that has a big headquarters now.
Right.
It's how do I manage all of these people coming and going out of our location, right? And how do we implement a system that makes all of this easier for us?
Right.
And so when COVID has taken place, we knew that was going to be a big obstacle. All of us, I think, are reading articles about new companies saying we're going remote first, or we're giving our employees freedom of choice of how they want to work, or maybe it's office 1 or 2 days a week and at home, 3 days a week or whatever. And so as that conversation has grown in momentum, we've had more companies reaching out to us looking for solutions, and we've also been doing a lot of work beginning that conversation and starting to reach out to companies that we're already in contact with and having these discussions with.
Yeah. Wow. And, you guys are a pretty young company, and it's amazing how many members you already have on the platform and everything. And you're I've learned that you're such a connected guy living in the Western Slope. And our mutual friend, Kay Henze, who is president and CEO of Blackstone Entrepreneurs Network, you're in those circles. These are very, it's had to have been a process to kind of get to where you're at, but it seems like you've kind of made headway really quickly here.
Yeah, and again, I think the thing that we are working on is, this is a big complex issue, right? And one of the things that we are talking about is that trying to figure out the new normal, quote unquote, when we're talking about return to work or whatever, is, some of the companies that have had the loudest voice are the big tech companies that you would expect,
Absolutely.
Google and Facebook and stuff like that.
Twitter came out first and
Yep.
said, we're going full remote forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, but this is an industry agnostic challenge, right? It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur that's a tech entrepreneur, or you're in the manufacturing industry, or you're in retail. Every industry in the world right now is trying to figure out, what are we going to look like moving forward? And so there's just a lot of conversations that people are having, trying to figure it out. And I think, getting to sit down and have conversations like this with you and other folks really helps give companies permission on what to do. And we can kind of point to best practices and say, okay, we're not all starting from scratch. There's companies that have been doing this for a long time successfully. Let's learn from them, right? Or there's companies that are starting to implement systems or new technology that makes this easier for them and doesn't put this huge administrative burden on managing people coming and going and stuff like that. So we have some best practices, and let's start there and kind of build forward together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as you know, I'm a commercial real estate entrepreneur. And for years, and this is a topic I geek out on, is commercial real estate, but for years, there's been talk about this smart building technology. We have seen, over the last 10 years, things slowly being implemented into buildings. And like you said in the very beginning of this conversation, this has catapulted a 5-10 year span down to like the last 6 months.
It's crazy.
And what started as, like a calendaring or like a management system for co-working, the additional offerings that you guys have, I mean, it's everything I'm hearing is smart building technology. It's just fascinating. Yeah,
the whole kind of some people use prop tech as kind of the language or whatever. And I think you're right. Kind of the commercial real estate industry has been one of the slowest adopting industries for some of this new technology, because there's just a lot of legacy in commercial real estate, right? And the thing that's been so interesting about COVID, it's not just commercial real estate, it's all these industries, but people were forced to do stuff that they have been avoiding for a long time, and you think of this forced innovation, I think one of the industries I like to point to a lot is like education, right? Who would think that you could have all of K through 12 school districts running all of their teaching and stuff remotely? Like, that is crazy.
That's
and
crazy,
it's because we were all forced to do it, right? And so how long would it have taken the whole education system to adopt, remote learning? A really long time.
Right.
And yet here we are, right? And like, the thing that people need to remember too is, we've all been kind of jettisoned from working in the way that we used to into the new way. And so when you think about, you hear a lot of people saying, like, I don't know if we're as efficient as we used to be or whatever. There's actually a lot of studies that working remotely, working in the way that we've been working, is a lot more efficient because you're cutting down on drive time and travel and stuff like that. But this is as the least efficient that we should be. The more that we double down on this style of work, the more technology solutions like our company and like team management systems and stuff like that are going to be developed,
needed,
which
and developed.
is just going to make us all more efficient.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a saying that people change when either the pain or the reward is great enough.
Yeah.
And that's most people do not change unless the pain or the reward is great enough to make the change. And this is certainly one that the pain was great enough, and we were all forced to. And that's one of the things that was amazing is we all figured it out quick. Seemed like most business owners discovered that, wow, this works great actually. And now it's the discussions around how do I bring my team back together, how often, when, how do I manage that? So it's cool that you're 4 years ago you started on this solution before you even knew it was going to become an issue.
Yep.
So
Well, and we've even talked, you and I were talking yesterday about some of the projects that you're working on, right? And
Right.
how these companies that are remote, it's not that they don't ever want to get together, right? And by bringing your staff together, by bringing your team together, you know, you can do planning sessions or quarterly planning sessions or whatever, and work like that is still really important, to all be in the same room, to be brainstorming together, to
Right.
write stuff on the whiteboard. So it's not that people don't want to work together. You know, the integrity of cultures that teams have built over years, you don't want that to go away because we're all working remotely together. So
exactly.
there's going to be some sort of hybrid solution. I don't think it's an all or nothing, but it's figuring out what's the best way to work moving forward, and how are we being most efficient with our time and with our dollars for our companies and our
Right.
employees.
Yeah, that's a great point. The common theme in conversations I have with business owners is things are working great remotely, and I am scared that I'm going to lose my company culture, which is the key to our success.
Mm-hmm.
How do I bring my people together so that I can sustain and grow that? So that's the common thread right now from my perspective.
Yep.
So, well, that's cool. Wanted to, I don't know how much you want to get into some of the other things that you're kind of thinking about
Yeah.
with regard to proximity in terms of expanding.
Yep. So, yeah, I think we're in a really good spot. And one of the questions that people ask is, you know, what's the status of the co-working industry? You know, where's that stuff going?
Yep.
It's really interesting. Our systems not only manage the door access and Wi-Fi access and all of that stuff, it also deals with all of the billing that goes through the system. And so this is no secret to anyone, but the co-working industry took a pretty big dip last year.
Yeah.
And so March, April, May, the industry saw kind of a 50% reduction in revenue industry-wide.
Wow.
And has been slowly building back to pre-COVID numbers, and we're right about where we were December 2019, which is really good to see. But there's a lot of people who are really bullish about the industry and looking down the pipeline and thinking that more companies are going to be using flexible office solutions because they're going to downsize their current real estate footprint, and maybe they need half the real estate that they used to have. And then when they do have a team planning meeting or they want to do a big event or something like that, they can just flex into flexible spaces or co-working spaces. You know, so if they want to get all of their teammates together, they could just leverage someone else's asset versus having to have that in their headquarters.
Right.
And so we expect that there's just going to be a lot more people working in this way in the future than there has been in the past.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I know there's a lot of real estate investors seem to be a little nervous about the co-working space right now in terms of investing in buildings that have co-working, companies in them.
Yeah.
I'm on the side of the fence that this is going to catapult that industry massively because of what you just said. And the more articles I read, the more CEOs of large companies that are being interviewed about this, that's the solution that they're planning. And you used the term earlier, the hybrid model. Maybe have a smaller footprint that's a headquarters, and then give their employees, that are probably spread out geographically, the opportunity to go to a co-working space that's closest to their home if they just want to get out of their house for a day and go work at a desk, hot desk type setup.
Yeah, and we're seeing that as well. Even in the commercial real estate investment properties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Before this kind of hybrid model, it was the name of the game was get a building and just fill it with long-term tenants, right? And so you've got 10-year and 20-year leases, kind consumer demand has changed, right? And so there's just not big queue lines of people waiting to sign 20-year leases like there was in the past, right? And so I think what will happen is a transition in the commercial real estate side where as you have a building and maybe you've got your X floor that had, was 20,000 square feet and you had a tenant in there and maybe they don't want to renew that lease anymore. I think those commercial real estate owners and investors will just, turn that into a flexible floor, right? And so then they can have more short-term renters in there. They can drive. Maybe it's fully furnished, and so maybe they have more people utilizing that floor while it's empty and while they're waiting for one big tenant to come in and take over the whole floor. They can still be generating revenue in that dark space, where that was not an option just 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. It's like super short-term sublease.
Yep, and just keep it
setups,
full, keep revenue going in there.
Yep.
Keep it flexible, and then if you do find someone who comes in and wants the whole floor, great, let's move them in there.
Right.
If you have someone one floor up that moves out, no problem. We'll just bolt on this system, and we can just keep generating revenue in that dark space again.
Cool, yeah. So before we kind of move off the topic of proximity, what's the best way for listeners that are interested in learning more? What's the website, best way to reach you?
So you can visit our website at proximity.space is our website.
Proximity.space, perfect. So I actually want to cover some personal things about you too. Telluride, one of maybe my favorite town or second favorite town in Colorado, maybe the country. Like, how long have you lived there?
So we moved up there. My wife got a job about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And so we've lived there for 18 months.
Wow. So are you racing down those double black slopes right now?
Not yet. Actually, we this is our third year skiing. So I grew up in Grand Junction and never went skiing or snowboarding. We did a little bit in like middle school, but I always worked on the weekends. So my friends would go ski and snowboard all weekend, and I was working at restaurants or whatever. And so 3 years ago, my parents gave my wife and I passes to Powderhorn. And so we just started going there, and then we moved to Telluride, and so it was kind of trial by fire, and we've just had a blast. And
awesome.
They got like 18 inches last night, so I'm jealous that I'm not there right now.
I've never skied Telluride. Man, those slopes look so steep and fun.
Yeah, they are. They're steep and fun. It's a well-kept secret. It's a great resort. Yeah.
And I hear it's extremely dangerous and scary to land a plane if you fly down there.
Yeah, that airport is insane. It's if you've never flown into Telluride or flown out of Telluride, basically you've got the runway and then it just stops and it's a cliff. So
really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And so you got to do it right.
Well, it's good that it doesn't get very cold there, so it never ices over.
Yeah, never. Like no, nothing like that.
And if anyone listening, if you've never taken that gondola from the residential side of the town,
Telluride
up the
to
hill,
Mountain Village,
over down into the town. Oh my God.
It
mind-blowing.
Is breathtakingly beautiful.
Holy shit. One of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
Yep.
It's very cool.
Yeah, we love living there. I was a little nervous because I thought it was like going to be just really small, and it's been awesome. Quality of life is great. We love living there, and it's nice. We never drive when we're in town, so park the car and walk everywhere. To get groceries and everything. Like, we don't drive when we're in town. And there's lots of skiing and hiking and cross-country skiing and stuff just absolutely accessible everywhere, which has been a real blessing during COVID,
Yeah,
sometimes you just need to get out and get some fresh air.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Just a couple more questions here. Yeah. You're a tech junkie, software as a service entrepreneur. What or who could you give credit to, like, lighting this entrepreneurial fire within you? Was it a book, a person?
Yeah. So a couple things, I guess. My grandpa was an entrepreneur and a business guy, and so growing up, my family never had a bunch of money. My dad's a pastor, and my mom's a teacher, and we'd go visit my grandpa, who was kind of an executive in Chicago, and I was just always really attracted. He passed away when I was fairly young. But I was always intrigued by that. They lived in a high-rise right across the street from Grant Park in Chicago. We'd go visit Grandma and Grandpa, and it was just this other world, basically. And so he kind of got me interested in business. I thought, I want to be cool like Grandpa, when I grow up.
Right. I want to wear a suit.
Yeah,
maybe not. But.
Exactly. Now I'm in a hoodie and flip-flops all the time. And so I would say that. And then I'm an avid audio book listener, and I used to drive a lot more than I do now, but I'm always listening to audiobooks. And so I think that's another thing, is just you need to be constantly learning and diving in. I think what we're all dealing with, COVID and return to work and stuff, this is just another example of how much I've been consuming a lot of information and reading a lot of articles and reading a lot of books just to figure out the trends and the directions that things are going. So I'd say my grandpa, being surrounded by other entrepreneurial friends that help my mind go like crazy, and then just lots of books.
That's cool. What are you listening to right now?
What am I listening to right now? Let's see. I just finished I just finished probably one of the best business books I've listened to in a really long time, and it's called Beyond Entrepreneurship. And it's actually by Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, Great by Choice, Built to Last, like a lot of classic business books. And he was a research professor at Stanford in the business department. And like all of his kind of classic business books came because they literally studied like thousands of businesses and said, here's businesses that we'd cluster together, and here's the decisions that they took that, some businesses went well and some businesses went, poorly or whatever based upon these decisions. So that's what he wrote all of his books on. This is an aggregation of all of his research. And so it was really, really good.
Wow, I'll check that out.
Yeah, so that was, it's called BE 2.0. So it's Beyond Entrepreneurship. I guess he wrote the book a long time ago, and this is the updated version.
Okay.
And so he has a lot of, here's what we wrote 20 years ago, and now here's our takeaways from today. On top of it.
And
so
the last 20 years.
Yeah. So that's really good. I'm reading a book called Think Again by Adam Grant right now. Fix This Next by Mike Michalowicz.
Okay.
Mike Michalowicz is one of my favorite business authors. We actually just had him on a call that we did for all of our co-working space operators. So he's got a bunch of good books. Profit First, Pumpkin Plan, which is how to figure out who your ideal clients are and clone them. So it's kind of the 80-20 principle of going to get your best clients. So he's got a bunch. And then I've got, I would say, outside of books, I've been listening to All In podcast. I was telling you about that.
Oh, you told me about that yesterday.
That podcast is really good.
I can't wait to check that out.
Yep.
The All In podcast.
All In podcast.
Yeah.
And then I've been checking out Clubhouse a little bit too, which is a new app, which is really nice. They've got a lot of discussion, so it's all audio. It's basically like a group phone call, and you can call in, and it almost feels like going to kind of a panel discussion in pre-COVID, where you'd go to a networking event and they'd have a panel discussion around a certain topic or whatever. Clubhouse is basically just a bunch of panel discussions around different
digitized.
topics. Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I've
been
definitely
really
heard of
interesting.
Clubhouse from a couple different avenues lately, so I'll have to
It's kind of fun.
check that one out too.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So last question, and it's my favorite one. It's a hard one to answer,
Okay.
but what would you say your superpower is?
Well, my company, they made a hashtag for me called Brian Loves Everyone.
Okay.
And I think that's probably one of my superpowers, is just being friends with everyone. I would say I'm a connector of ideas, thoughts, and people. And so I am, whether it's reading all the time or listening to books all the time or whatever, my wheels are always going. So connecting people and trying to make their lives better by making them connected to other people or whatever. So
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I
Yep.
like that. Yeah. Well, it's great to get connected with you.
yeah.
And Kay, if you're listening, thank you very much for this introduction.
Yes, thank you, Kay.
Brian and I have become fast friends. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. It was great to learn more about you and Proximity. And again, proximity.space if
Correct.
anyone wants to learn more about it or find a location or
Yeah.
get on board.
Or email me. It's just Brian, BRIAN, @proximity.space. And that's a direct email to me.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right. We'll
Thank
look
you.
forward to next time.
Yeah, this
Thanks,
is great.
Brian.
Thank you.